Yo, welcome to my channel. This is Next God Creations. Today we are going to talk about 3D design, something like this. We are going to use Cinema 4D and Photoshop. This is going to make it a bit simpler than using only Cinema 4D. So without wasting much time, let's get started. So let's create our new page in Photoshop to create our design. So let's create something simple, something which is not complicated, like let's type something like new year. Then I'll scale it up. I want to change the font. I want something bold, so I'm going with this font. Inside issue new. I think I made a spelling mistake like this, but then let me close the space a bit. Like this. So this is what I'm going to use for my 3D design in Cinema 4D. So what I will do now is I'll come to the layer, then I'll press on Control. So whilst pressing on Control, you see this box in the where the T is being placed. This box, holding your Control, you press on it. You will see a selection will be made around your text or any design that you've created, like this. Then you will come back to this tool, the fourth tool in Photoshop, which is magic wand. You click on it, or you can use the shortcut W. Then you come back to your design like this. So you right click, then scroll down to make work path. So you click on make work path, leave it at 2.0, then press on OK. You see the selection will change to point like this. You can use Adobe Illustrator for this same thing that I'm doing in Photoshop, but then because I don't want to use Illustrator, that's why I'm converting it into a work path, so it will be saved as Illustrator format. So if you are using Illustrator, you can create your design, then save it, then continue with your 3D straight in Cinema 4D. But I'm using Photoshop, that's why I'm rendering it to work path. So when I get it like this, I'll export it as my work path. So I'll go to File, then Export, locate Export, then I'll come back to Path to Illustrator, then I'll click on it, leave it at work path, then hit on OK. So give it a location. I'm going to give it desktop, so I'll change the name to New Year 3D tutorial. Then I'll click on OK. So now I'm done. I don't need this one anymore, so I can close it. Can close this one too. So I'll open my Cinema 4D. So I strongly recommend Cinema 4D R14 or R20. You can use any version, but due to some experience, that's what I find it to be very powerful to me. That's my choice. So let's wait for the software to open. So this is the software. If you open it for the first time, you will see something like this. So don't worry yourself about all these things. Let's focus on these three tools here. The first one is for move. So you will click, then you will drag. You see the way it is moving. The second one, the arrow, this is for scaling up, like zooming in and zooming out. So you click, then you push up, then you push down to be zooming. Then the last one, as the arrow is showing, rotation, like this. Let me go over again. The first one, which is used for moving, if you click on it, then you drag your mouse, you see it to be moving. The second one is for zooming in and zooming out, like this, and zooming out. And the third one is for rotation. So let's worry ourselves with only these three tools. Don't worry about any other thing. So now let's import the work path that we created. So what I can do is I can drag and drop. So this is the New Year 3D tutorial that I created in Photoshop. So I'll drag it and leave it into Cinema 4D. Then you will leave it like the scale as it is. So you will see this one when you upload, it is in 2D format. You just see the outline. But then let's come to the object manager. You see there's a plus beside this layer here. So in Photoshop this will be our layers, but in Cinema 4D we call it object manager. So let me click on the plus. You see there are plenty paths. So the path 1 is for the W, the path 2 is for N. I don't want to extrude each and every path, like it will be something, it won't be easy, like there are plenty, so it won't be easy. So I just want to merge them, then extrude them at once. So I'll select the first one, then hit on my shift. So whilst holding shift, I'll click the last path, then I'll right click, then I'll go to connect object plus delete this one. Some of the versions doesn't have this feature. That's why I first told you that I strongly recommend R14 or R20 or R21. Yeah, those kind of stuff, they have this feature. So I click on it. So you see now I have only one path here. So now let's continue with the 3D. So when you check here, these two here, you see there is an arrow beside it, which means there is extra tools inside these two. So what we can do to reveal those tools is you can click without releasing your hand. It will open this menu. So click on the extrude, this one, click on it like this. So now let's bring the extrude inside the null object, this one, like this. So but you see the 3D is not showing. So what we can do is drag the path, the work path, inside this extrude. You see when I hold it like this, you see the arrow is showing to the left. Don't leave it, let the arrow point down before you leave it. So when it's on it, you see the arrow will change to down, like it will be pointing down. When the arrow changes to down like this, you can leave it. So you see it is now in 3D format. So now this is it. So I can play with the weight, like how big it is showing. I can play with it. So I'll select the extrude, then you see what's in the object, this one, make sure it's on object, then you see this 20 centimeter, you can play with it. So when you are playing with it, you see it to be reducing like this, like this. So this is our first step in creating 3D text. You see it's very simple. So let's talk about caps. So you see from the object you will see the caps. Yes, so when you look at the caps, you have the start and the end. So what basically the caps do is it will give you a nice edges, so you can get round edges. If you look at this one, you see it is having sharp edges, but you can make it a round edges. So let's do an example for the start. So the start will affect the front edges and the end will affect the back edges. So for the start edges, I'll change it to fillet cap. You see it is too big, that's why it has deformed our text. So we can fix that by reducing the number of radius for the start. So I'll reduce it like this. So let's put it at 1, but it's still not looking round as I want it. So I'll increase the steps. You see how it has transformed like this. So you can apply the same thing for the end too. So let me zoom in. So for the end, I'll click, then change it to fillet cap. Then I'll also decrease it from 5 to, let's say, 1. But then it is not round, so I'll have to increase the steps to get a round edge. So now I have a 3D text. But now let's learn something new. Let me hide this one. Let's duplicate this layer. So you can duplicate by uh holding the control, then you drag this one, hold your control, then drag. You see now the arrow is pointing left, then you leave it. You see now I have it. It has duplicated the first layer. So let me rename this one. You can double click on it, say front, then I'll double click on the second one to say back. Now I told you we use these two to move. So I've duplicated it, but they are on the same position. That's why I'm not seeing the second one. So what I will do now is I'll make sure this plus is selected, then I'll hold. So make sure you use the the rotation tool to rotate it to get a side view like this. Then you make sure this arrow is selected, then hold the blue line, then drag it. You see this is the second one, but then make sure it is fusing through the first layer. Then we come over to the object manager, then you click on the back layer. Then you see for the fillet for the start, the fillet for the start, you come back to the radius, then increase the radius to something like 2 or maybe 3. Let's rotate it to a front view to see what we have done now. You see what is happening. So let me reduce it to something like 2, like this. So now I'm down creating my 3D test. But then you see it's like the one at the back. I want it to be bigger. I want it to have a big extrude. So I'll select it, then go back to the object. Then this 4 centimeter, I will increase it. You see, I will increase it. You can increase it to whatever that you like, but I think this one is okay for me, like this. But you see there is some lines here. This one, this line, this line, this one. You have to make sure all your work fits inside those lines. If it goes beyond it, when you render, it will cut. So make sure it fits inside perfectly. So now let me position it. Something like this. I want it to look something like this. So this is perfect. Now let's apply colors. So in Cinema 4D, before you apply colors, we have what we call as materials. So materials will help you to apply colors to your design. So you can come to, you see this button here, this is the material manager. So when you click on create, you will see new material here plus, or you can simply double click inside here like this, then to create for you. So when it creates like this, double click on that material. Then you see inside here we have color, diffusion, luminance, whatever. But then let's go to the color. When you go to color, you see this box. You see the color here is the one showing here. So let's change that color. So I'll click on it. Then I will adjust it. Let's say I want yellow. So I'll drag this one here. Then I'll make sure for the middle one, I drag it here. I want a brighter yellow, so I'll drag this one to here. You see now it is yellow. Then I'll click on OK. You see it has changed to yellow. But then there's no reflection in it, so let's add some reflection. So make sure this one is checked, then you click on it. So you will come to the add. Another option, another reason why I highly recommend the R20 is most of the other versions you won't see this one. Maybe they are there, but it is not just located as easily as this one. Yes, and even with the fillet cap and those stuffs, in some versions you have to create them manually for yourselves. Like the 2023 version, you have to create it, adjust it manually to get those fillet cap. So if you're a beginner, I suggest you go with the R20 or the R14. So let's continue with the material. So you see the material has changed into black because of the strong reflection. So let's reduce the brightness of the reflection. This one I'll reduce it. You see, the moment I start to reduce it, I'm getting a glass form of like a material like this. Let me take it off. You see, it is smooth, like rough like this, but when I bring the reflection, this is how it looks like. So okay, so let's use drag and put the cursor on the front like this, then you leave it. The color will change to yellow for the one in front like this. You see, the color has changed. And let's say for the back, for this one, let's say we want something like black. So in order not to do another settings like the reflection and stuff, so I will copy this layer, this material, by clicking on Control, then I'll double click, then drag. Or you can click and drag. I'm using a touchpad, that's why I said double click. So you hold Control, you click, then you drag. You get something like this. Then you double click on it. Then you come back to the color. So what I will do now is change the color. I want black. Then I'll press OK. So I'll drag this one too, then leave it on the back like this. So this is my 3D text that I've generated. But then I want it, I want to bend it. I don't know, like in Photoshop you have something like warp, like something like that. I want to bend it. So what I will use to bend it is in Cinema 4D it is called warp. So I have to create a null object for both designs or all the layers here. So I'll click the last one, then press Shift to select the first one. Then I'll click Alt plus G. Alt plus G. It will create the null object, so it's like group. Then I'll come back to here. You see this arrow here, this 2. I'll click on it, then to open extra tools for me. I don't know whether they are tools on, but I just call them tools. So if you go through, you see wrap, then you click on the wrap, then make sure you place it on top of the layer, so basically to be the first layer. Then yeah, so when you place it on top like this, on top of the first layer in the null like this, you can move it here to adjust. But it is, the wrap is stretching my work, of which I don't like. So you see this yellow point, there's one yellow point here, one on top here, and one here. So let me zoom so that you can see it well. This is the other one. So I'm going to adjust those ones to get a nice wrap. So I'll click on this one, then bring it here. You see how what it is doing now. Then I'll click the one on top. Let me zoom in. So you adjust it so you get what works perfectly for you. Let me use the scale tool to scale it down a bit to get the foldings like this. So that was the scale tool. Then you like this. So now let me use the move tool, the plus now, to adjust it like this. Adjust. You continue to adjust till you get what you want. But now it's like it is not readable, so let me adjust these ones too a bit. Like this. Zoom. Like this. So this is a simple way to create a 3D text for your designs. So when you are done, you have to render. So for the render, you see we have 1, 2, 3, these 3 things. This last one, which is the text one, is for the settings. So you click on it, then you come to output. So in output, we see there is an arrow here. You click on it, you have portrait and landscape. Print portrait, print landscape. So most of the times what I use is print landscape. Then you can use A4. Then when you come to save, this is the format. So when you want to use it for design, you have to save it as a PNG. So you have to change this one to PNG. Then you take the alpha channel. If you don't take the alpha channel, you have some black background. So always make sure to check the alpha channel. Then you see these three lines, you click on it to select a location for it. So let's say let me give it New Year 2. Save. Then let me add some effects. So when you click on effect, we have global illumination and ambient occlusion. So this is going to help you to get a realistic test. So I'll select ambient occlusion. Then I'll make sure all these settings are on 45, then this one to 45. Where it is 10, leave it. The 64 to leave it. Then come to the last one, 45. Then go to same effect, global illumination. Then change the medium to high. When you are done, you close it. Then you click on the middle one like this. It will save. In Cinema 4D, you will say render. It will render for you. Sorry, one thing, I forgot to add light. You see now it is black. It's not showing because there is no light. Cinema 4D see it as darkness. So what we will do is you use some studio kit light. So when you go to file, you hit on the merge. This is the light I have, the Cinema 4D studio light. If you think you need it, you can DM me on Instagram at NextGod Creations. I will send you the link to those lights. So I've loaded the light, but then I don't need the floor, so I will select and delete it. Then when you zoom out, you see this is the first light. This is it. So you select it from this side. Then you can adjust it. Let me zoom out to see how it's affecting my work. So you can adjust the light to suit your preference. So when I'm done, I'll just zoom in. I'll zoom in till I see my work like this, so I cannot see my work. Now I can render. You see now the work is displaying. So it will render. It will take some time depending on your PC specification. So guys, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for more 3D design. This is just a basic tutorial to give you the knowledge on how to generate a simple 3D, but as time goes on, you will generate a complicated designs. See you next time.